Martin time, like we're in the
Wow.
office. Well, I thought when we were on Friday, everybody was like, "Yeah, let's do Q&A. Let's set up Q&A." I think people are probably having a hard time getting in. See,
There's
we come in through like the back end, so I never clicked on the link to come in. How did you
Yeah, I
how
have
did
it
you figure it
figured
out?
out now. We kind of on Friday it was just clicking and we just hit something. But I know the process. So the link you give,
Mhm.
it goes, that brings us to the dashboard. The next step is the library. We have to click library on the top of it. Then you go
Oh,
down, when
okay.
you're in the library, you click the real estate default solutions, and then meetups show up.
Oh, nice. See, you figured it out.
Yeah, well, Kylie figured it out. I
Oh, so
actually
she's your
remember it this time.
okay. She's our tech star then.
Well, she's
Fantastic.
really, she's so good.
Fantastic.
She's just such an incredible support in the office. She does the onboarding, but she just helps us all out. She's a superstar.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have much interaction. I never onboarded anybody. All my people were long-term, you know, bigger teams, and it's like
Yeah,
moving a mountain getting people in. So
yeah.
it takes a while. So anyway, look at that. Haya Kessler came in. Yay. All right. Well, today's just an informal Q&A. We decided on Friday we did a REO auction training, with the auction sites, and then we said, why don't we do a Q&A once a week if anybody has questions. What happens is when you have a few people in the training and I don't stop talking, it doesn't give you much time. So poor Martin was muffled here in the training on Friday, and he's probably had a million questions, but he didn't get to pull them out.
No, it's not, it's a lot of information, so it takes time to process. So this is good.
Yeah, yeah. Did you get a chance to look through some of those sites?
No, that was I didn't know we're having the Q&A today. I came in today to go through all of them. So that's
Oh, okay.
my,
Well, we could go through a bunch of them. So the goal, okay, and I was looking at a few yesterday. So I have an investor. He has a condo I have listed, and it was a rental, and now he's selling it. I got it into escrow, and so we nickel and dimed over $400 or $500 to make the deal work. Of
yeah,
course, you
yeah,
know how these investors are.
I do. I do.
And we finished up. We finally agreed. I got the other agent to take the deal, and then he texted me and he said, "You need to find something else for me to put this money into before the end of the year, so I don't have to pay taxes." So now here I am, now struggling to come up with something,
Yeah.
which is not a big deal. That's what we do. But
Yeah, that's our
my
job.
first thought was to go look at those auction properties and see what's in there. So I was looking at a bunch. They're in auction.com, which I went to. They're the biggest auction company, and they have the most volume. And if you look on their bank-owned homes, under their tab for bank-owned homes, they've got just a ton of stuff. But they call their CWCOT recently foreclosed, and those are the ones you want to focus on. I
Yeah,
don't think there was any in Nevada on their site. There was a bunch in California. So for this guy, I sent him a Victorville and a Barstow, and because it was price point what we were looking at.
okay.
So, and then on those CWCOT, like we said on Friday, there's no uh, buyer premium. So they're not paying the auction company 5% to buy. So in that auction world, it's always been that way. When you bought a property at one of these auctions, you paid that 5%,
Yeah.
on these bank auctions. And then the agent typically gets, 1% out of the five if there's an agent on the deal. So the auction.com is the biggest. They have the most volume. And you can set up searches on any of these sites, and they'll actually email you in the zip codes or cities or states you want, which is a good thing. You know what I mean? So you could just go in and have them coming to you, and then they pop up into your email. I got one yesterday. Let me see if I can find it real quick, just to give you an idea. Because it kind of catches your eye too as it rolls in the email. Let me see. Hold on. And you don't have to necessarily jump on the website of what's in. All right, let me bring up my screen. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this is my email that my auction.com emails come in through. So they have, and my screen's behind me, that's why I'm tilting.
That's good.
So they have a bunch of properties. Every day they just pop them on here. So here's one in Henderson that they put on. It's a condo. And there's the resale. So on the CWCOT for Nevada, their haircut. Remember I mentioned there's a haircut premium?
Yep. Yep.
Their haircut premium is about 20 to 26%,
Oh, wow.
which is huge. Okay, and that's just between the three of us today.
Okay.
That's a training in its own. But so I mean, anything that comes up under that, and let's look real quick and see how they have it again. I believe they had it as recently foreclosed. And you'll get a ton. I mean, I did a quick ad just on Facebook. I put it out. I had about 12 replies yesterday. And I put oh, hold on, let me go to the other screen. I have 5 screens here, so it takes me forever to get something accomplished when I show you guys. So I did a quick little ad for investors for discounted REO and auction properties. And just a ton, I mean, I didn't qualify them yet. I have them in a drip. So they're going to continue to get drip emails until they go to actually search. And once they're searching for that on my site, and what I did is I push them instead of my own personal website. I push them to the Keller Williams website that we have through Keller Williams, Martin.
Yeah,
because they could search nationally on that website. So the thing is I don't want them to go click on so my website has Nevada, Southern, and it has Southern California, and then I have Northern California. So I'm a part of Metrolist and CRMLS in California. So that's almost the whole state, in all honesty. So theoretically, my website has a search for Southern Nevada and all of California. I don't have Northern Nevada, but on the KW site, I have Northern Nevada, Florida, all the areas. So if they search and they come up with something somewhere else, and then they become a referral, and you say, deal directly with me. If there's something in Florida you're interested in, I'll reach out and I'll get you somebody to work with. You know what I mean? And then it could be so my finding another agent in another market would be I would reach out to the OP or the team leader. So the team leader hires like the manager.
Yeah.
And the OP would be the owner. So like in our office, Terry Brinkus would be the OP, and the team leader would be, depending on which office, it would be either Darren or Dan or Laura or
Leah.
Or Leah up in Summerlin. She took Sean's spot. Anyway, so on here, I'm trying to think of where I was looking for yesterday. Let's see if I could find, just to give you guys that idea. I'm thinking I was on here. Don't tell me I was on Zone. I literally spent hours yesterday searching for this guy. Let's see, foreclosure in process. So now auction.com also has the actual foreclosure sales on here for every, the actual trustee sale, the foreclosure sale in every state, but you have to be there. So it'll say be there live. In some states, they honor an online auction and they don't have it at, like we do in Nevada. We have it at Nevada Legal News. In some of the states, they do it online. Okay, so that's not there. Let me see where I found it. Yeah, see here it's in person, so that would be the foreclosure sale. Is it under bank? Let's see. I was just looking at them yesterday and I was thinking to myself, I should have probably brought this up. Why didn't I? Let me see if I can find the property. Is it bank on? No. And they have the dates. They'll have like the bank owns they're always subject to. So let's say let's pick this one up here. This is up in Northern California, but let's use this as an example. They have opening bid is 150, and then they'll give you an estimated value. I would still pull comps or check RPR. So RPR will give us a value nationally. So we don't need to get into, let's say, the, Northern California MLS, if that were the case. Okay, so occupied, cash only. Okay, so that's broker co-op not offered. Okay, so on this one, we obviously have to get paid by the buyer. So that's not the one. Where did I find this? I was just looking at this yesterday. Let me check zone. Bear with me, guys.
Take your
Because
time.
those percentages are really cool. Oh, so it's still showing my screen. Perfect. Okay. Sell by, where's buy? Let's see, California. Okay, here they go. See, so can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, so up here it says CWCOT second chance. So these are all the ones that we talked about yesterday. So there's no buyer's premium. So and realistically, you could charge that buyer more. So I mean, they're expected to go on to an online auction. So my first thing is I tell them on the online auctions, there's always going to be a buyer premium, and it's going to be a 5% premium. And that just goes, the bank gets that, it pays the auction company. And then if I find one of these that fit, I would just say these are CWCOT, they're FHA second chance properties. There's going to be no buyer premium, so I'm going to save you that extra 4% since you're not paying the 5%. So I always charge them 1% on the auction. I mean, in all honesty, it's pretty simple. You know what I mean? You're going to go in, you're going to create an agent account right here. See the sign up in this corner?
Yep.
Can you guys see my little mouse moving around? You're going to sign in or sign up as an agent here. You're going to create your account. And then you'll be able to bid. So here, did it log me in? Yeah, it logged me in. Okay. So you register each of your buyers separately. So you're going to go in. So if let's say you had a buyer for this one in Stockton, you're going to go and register his name. And then an additional screen is going to pop up for the agent, and that's going to be your information. And you tell the buyer, you know what? You could sit here and watch this. It's like trading stocks all day. This is something you want to do. You could watch it, and then I'll handle the groundwork. I'll go to the property. I'll take the pictures. If it's vacant, I'll go inside. So a lot of these CWCOT are vacant, which is kind of cool. And I'm just using the California because there's more to pick from here. Let me see if this one in Stockton is vacant. They'll show some inside pictures. Oh, this one doesn't have any pictures. Okay, so it's just the street. Look at those leaves. The last thing I'd want to do is pick up those leaves, huh? Oof. Sometimes it says if it's vacant or not.
And if it's vacant, can we gain access?
Yeah, so what you would do is you just call the auction company. So in that, once you're logged in and you'll have a contact for each property. You could just call and say, hey, I have a buyer is interested. I need to go out and take some quick pictures of the property. Is there a lockbox? It's usually on the rear door. I mean, if you were to go, typically you could just go and it's there, but you'll need the code.
Cool.
A lot of times they default the same code. So once you get it once, you'll have it, like for just about all of them. I have keys. So from, I would say it's probably 25 years of working for different banks with their key codes. I have a ring of keys like this, and they're numbered keys, like for each bank. Like HUD had 5 keys at one time, and then they changed them, and they're called contracted keys. So you could go online and buy them, and then you could just open that back door and go in. I mean, I just go in. I'm brazen. If it's vacant, it's vacant. I mean, if somebody says, what are you doing in there? I'd say I'm doing a secondary mortgage inspection. They don't know half the time.
Yeah, that was close, so it makes sense.
Anyway, but so that was the bread and butter. And hey, Gil, how are you?
Hey, Joe, I'm good, doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing good, Gil.
Good.
Okay, so Friday we did a whole training on the REO auction websites, and that's where all REO inventory is temporarily. It's all these banks get their default divisions all the way up and running again. I mean, there's tricklers in the MLS, a few, not a ton. Most of the stuff is showing up on these sites right now. So the banks are throwing them up on like auction.com and Zone. I think we went over like 6 sites on Friday.
Yeah,
So
at least.
I was refreshing for Martin, so you could kind of get a feel for this while we're in here.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
these,
the new buyer brokerage forms works out perfect for those auction sites because then we can set our commissions right on with the buyer brokerage agreement.
right, and it works out. So for years I had a challenge because I sold a ton of these online auction properties, and the buyers would always say, "I'm not paying a commission. Why would I pay?"
Exactly.
And I used to say, "Well, you won't have access to this without me."
Yeah.
You know, and then sometimes they go in, they're smart enough to go in and create their own account, but you won't find it any of these properties unless you get into each of those auction company accounts. You know what I mean? You're going to create an agent account, you're going to get in, you'll have access. But like a
Right.
buyer isn't going to be able to Google it or find it, unless they know, hey, I need to go to Zome or auction.com. And I usually don't tell them where the property is. I always say it's an online auction property.
Okay. Do you just submit their bids then for them on their behalf?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do everything. Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason why we do that is just for control. Once they're going in there, they might go in one day, because some of my investors, so I have some big corporate investors and I have some kind of like local investors that own a bunch of properties, and they tend to get a little cheap, and they might think, oh, I'll just put it in myself and I'll get it for less because I don't have an agent, but it doesn't work that way.
Right. Exactly.
So in these sites, they don't care if there's an agent or not,
Yeah.
and a lot of them have a co-op. So we were looking at these CWCOT properties. Those are the second chance properties, which have no buyer premium. And these are all discounted by a state discount amount. But they also have a bunch of bank owned in here.
So those ones, Joe, we only get the commission we get from the buyer is the only the only one we get.
On the bank owns, if you were to click, let's say on this here, and you went to the bank owns, they're going to have a co-op.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find one that does. Sometimes they don't, so you got to go through them. I tell the investor, I'm gonna, working with me, I'm gonna search through the MLS. I'm gonna search all the auction sites. I'm gonna look at the foreclosure sites. If you have cash, I don't want to rule anything out. I want to represent you, make sure we run the full gamut. I'll even look at new construction fallouts. I'll look at new construction closeouts. I'm gonna find you the best deal.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you only want to buy a bank-owned home, or they say, I buy foreclosures. Well,
Yeah.
what's a foreclosure? So they always say that. So I say, I'm going to search for all this stuff, but we need to be loyal to each other.
Yeah.
And they go, they'll understand after a while, and then, so here's one. Let's see what the co-op is on this one. This one's a bank owned on here. I'm going to say it's 1%, to be honest, but I have to check. And so, of course, the property is as is. They're not going to make any repairs. And typically, they're looking for cash, or you're going to pull out like a hard money loan.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where is the co-op on this one? So this one actually has an agent. Oh, look at that. So Justin Portier. So, Mike Martin, Mike that's usually on the call?
Yes,
from Long
yes,
Beach?
yes.
That's his son, Justin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, small world. So he's at, what is this, Valhalla Homes? He's the broker of record over there.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, let's see if I can find, I know this one has a co-op. I just got to find it. If there's an agent on there, there's always a co-op. But it's typically auction.com is typically 1%. I'll have to look around and find it. And then like the other ones, so the first thing to do is go to auction.com, make your agent account, go to Zome, XOME, Zome, go to Realty Bid, Williams and Williams, and I'm trying to think of what was the other auction company I had, and ServiceLink. So ServiceLink support Hudson and Marshall. So they have a site also. Go and register, set up whatever searches to come to you. I wouldn't set it up to go to the buyer. And then I would trickle stuff out. Like I just had an agent did a training on keeping your database happy and touching with them. And what they do is they do a weekly hot property. And they send out, as a matter of fact, I think I got it. I'm on the agent's list, believe it or not. So I get his hot property each week, and he puts basic stuff in there. So let's say this one in Stockton he's going to use. He doesn't put the address. He's going to go in there and he's going to put, what is this? Where's the description? 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 875 square feet. Single-story home in Stockton, California, with the zip code. Hot home of the week, and he'll call this REO or foreclosure auction or bank owned, something like that. So now you could even you could cut and copy and paste this picture too. You could hit copy and just throw it right into the email and send that out. So one of your emails for the week is going to be the top foreclosure REO property. And you're going to trickle that out to your database. What I would do is I would send that out on like a Monday or a Tuesday is probably a good time. And this way it gives them a little time during the week. In case you want to hit them twice and you want to hit them again Thursday or Friday with something else, you hit them with this early in the week. And this will kind of give them an idea of, that you got that full spectrum. I'd also look at, how we get the emails from the builders when they have standing inventory and closeouts and stuff. I would throw something like that out to the database also. I would do Northwest Summerlin area, custom builder, like if it's Toll Brothers, custom builder, new home, standing inventory. Get on the standing inventory. Email me to get on the standing inventory list. And I put the price range. I keep it simple, because you want them to respond. Even if the one agent that the webinar I did, it was through another company. It was another company recruiting agents, and they don't put a picture. They just put text in there. So for this, they put again, they put single story, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 875 square foot, Stockton, California, 95204, hot property, something like that, or like foreclosure of the week. And then if you're interested, you're going to reply back and say, do you have photos? You know what I mean? If you're the buyer in the database. And then even if you just send them these 4 photos, say this has interior photos. Look at this dump. Oh my God. Look at that. So some of them have photos, some of them don't. I mean, you're not going to get somebody that's going to love this place. This is perfect for an investor. So you could even, if this were the property, you could write back, just taking a quick look, like, if they sent, hey, do you have any photos, or have you been inside? You could say, I looked at pictures. The backyard's going to need a lot of work. You're going to need some work on the interior. Everything's aged. There's paneling on the walls. I bet you're going to have to replace the kitchen. The baths also need updating, and they're definitely going to need a trash out and flooring. Something similar like that. And this way it's going to put, it's going to give them a roundabout. Sometimes that's out of people's league. That's just too much work. And that's what we used to get with the HUDs. It was just too much work. There would be buyers that are like, oh, that's too much work. And I'd be like, well, what do you need? And they say, I need something with carpet and paint. Then I'd go into the MLS and I'd look for stuff that needs carpet and paint. You know what I mean? I keep it simple. Or I'd say, hey, how about if we look for a new construction that's basic, and you could go in and you could do your own upgrades. You look for one that's all carpet and vinyl. We'll go in, you could put your LVP down, get a flooring guy to put LVP down. You can get a finished carpenter to come in, put up crown moldings, and maybe you do 2-tone paint instead of leaving that white, the builder paint. A lot of the house. So I bought a new home from America West Pulte. I think it's 2 years now, but we're in it. And we got basically a white, everything was white. And they call it now the builder paint. And it's a dull white paint. And if you get a stain on the wall, like I spilled coffee on the wall and I was cleaning it with Fantastic, I took the paint off. So now I have a stripe down the wall in the hall. So, but that's what you get as basic. So I tell investors, the new homes are more affordable and they're cutting deals. But you have to remember, you're getting a basic house. So if you want to put this thing back on the market, you need to add some finishes to it. And that's probably a better situation for the amateur buyer than to put him into something like this place over here in Stockton, where he's going to rip paneling down. And this thing is probably, I'm sure there's like asbestos insulation or something in here because it's an old house. So I'm sure there's some challenges with it for sure. But so that's something to look at. But yeah, so these auction properties aren't typically going to show anywhere. So it's a nice little lead in for extra inventory, and you'll definitely get some buyers. And so once you get that investor, I market a lot to investors, and I offer investor programs. And what I do is I tell the smaller investors, hey, I'm an REO guy. I've been doing this for 34 years. And to be honest, I'm going to extend to you the same courtesies I do to Wells Fargo, HUD, and Fannie Mae. I'm going to work with you just like I do them. So we can do it two ways. I can represent you as a corporate seller when you're ready to sell, and I would handle it just as I would these bank-owned properties. And most of the times, any agent in the MLS who deals with me, that's what they've been dealing with, and they're used to it. So they're not going to expect to come in and get all kinds of repairs done. So I would put, like in the MLS, I would put corporate owned, sold as is, and little basic things like that to try and get just to try and get the buyers or the buyer's agent if they're co-oping in the MLS. So all my investors are paying a selling commission. I thought that once this happened, the investors would all say we're not paying anything, but they're still all paying anywhere from 1% to 2%. So they're not on the bandwagon where all your resale sellers are. I don't want to pay a commission, and I hear it all the time from different agents I talk to. So that get in there, definitely make those auction accounts. And then you guys are familiar with HUD, right? And HUD Home Store. Let's go take another quick look at this. We looked at this on Friday. So most of this for Martin is going to be like a redo. So HUD's in the middle of changing their asset management company. So there might not be many properties. So there's only one on here in Nevada. And it's on Warm Springs. It's up in the southwest, probably by Rhodes Ranch. So it's 89148. So all these HUDs, when they first list, they list to owner occupants only for 15 days, 10 days simultaneous bid, and then 5 days daily bids. And what simultaneous bid is, it means the first day to the 10th day, all those bids come in at the same time. So this is good for a first-time buyer. And they all have lock boxes on them now. So they have listing agents and lock boxes. So you could go look at these at any time. And the good thing with HUD properties, which most people don't know, is it's HUD's policy to allow any agent that has an active NAID number. So each broker has a NAID number. You can advertise any of these properties. You can't advertise it as your listing, but you can advertise it on the internet. So let's say, so this one on Warm Springs, what I would do with this, and you'll see eventually I'll have it on Facebook and Twitter and everything. I'd put on here HUD/REO property, Las Vegas 89148. I popped that front picture in, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. What else would I put in there? I put a link back to my website, and I'd say text or call for more information. And I wouldn't put the price because an investor isn't going to be interested in that for $215. That's listed at the as is appraised value. That's how HUD's priced, at the as is appraised value. So here's the breakdown. And this, you go in and you submit your HUD bid online, just like you would one of those auction properties. You're going to go in here, you're going to create your agent account underneath the broker. So if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't submitted a HUD since we've been the marketplace. Maybe Gil knows. Is it under JC, do you know, or Clyde?
Yeah, well, Clyde gave me the number, so he has it. Yeah.
Okay, so it's under Clyde. So yeah, so if you're going to submit, you'd put your broker, whoever the broker is that signed for the NAID. So, and then you could submit your bid online. So after so once it goes 10 days owner occupant, another 5 days daily owner occupant, where every night at midnight, actually it's not midnight, it's central time. So it's actually 10 p.m. becomes the end of the day. So you'd have to have your bid in for 10 p.m. When it hits that 15th day at midnight, it turns over to an investor daily property. So an investor could buy it. So what I used to do, I bet you I sold probably 10, 15 of these a month. I used to wait until that, if it didn't sell by that 15th day, I'd start hitting all my investors up. And a lot of my investors were agents. So I let them go look at the property because they'd have access. And I'd say, just let me know and I'll put the bid in and I'll knock it off. So if you technically on that 15th daily day that 15th day, if you put your offer in after 10 p.m., which would be really technically the next day because it's 12 o'clock Central Time, you would pretty much be the first bid in the morning. And chances are when that AM contractor, that's what they call them, asset management, AM contracting, he comes in the morning, he'd pull your bid and you'd win. So it would never make it to all bidders for investors.
What
So that's
commission,
just a way to knock
what
that
commission
off.
are they paying now?
What was that?
What commission are they paying now, HUD?
You could put in whatever you could put in whatever you want up to 3%.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so a lot of agents are going in at 2. I've seen agents put them at 1. I've seen agent put them at, it depends, at 3, depends on the property. So, but to be competitive, because there's always going to be an agent putting it in. I mean, a lot of times they don't even show the property. So when we had, when BLB Resources had the AM contract, I was a listing agent in Nevada and California when they had both, and I trained all the agents in the other states. And we used to, we'd have agents submit a bid and just tie the property up, figuring that if I put it in on the 5th day and I tie it up owner occupant and then I cancel it on the 10th day, then it'll go right to investors. It doesn't. It goes to where it left off. So, everybody tries to foolproof it. So there's no foolproof in it. So the HUDs are usually a good place. And those are going to show in the MLS also. But again, depending who the agent is, they give us 24 hours to put it in the MLS. So if you look on HUD Home Store, it'll show as soon as it comes out on HUD Home Store. That agent that's listing it won't probably put it out right away because they're going to try to work the property for a couple hours, or at least that day. So that's HUD.
So Joe, I have a question.
Sure.
On the auction websites, is there, for the investors, is there any due diligence?
You can. They're sold as is.
Yeah.
The ones that are vacant, a lot of them are going to be sold, without access, depending on the type of the properties. If it is without access, then, obviously you need an investor that's going to know his numbers. So I had investors in New York that bought just based on the outside. So they look at it and say, oh, it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath in Roosevelt. I could probably sell it for $350 if I get it for $250.
Okay.
And they figure their $100,000 spread in there and older homes, so they were throwing all kinds of money at it. In Vegas, again, you could kind of base it. Every house would be similar. A lot of times you could look in the windows. If it's occupied, you can't go in and disturb the occupants. So on those CWCOT properties, it may say occupied, but then they're going to have photos. And if there's interior photos, then it's not. So I would usually drive by if it's something that catches my eye and just kind of get a feel for it and see if it is or isn't. In Vegas, if the water's not on, it's vacant. You can't live in a house without water. Even though I have had that, but typically, you need to have water. So they could have power off, but you need power too. Like in August, you don't have power, you're going to die in the house without air conditioning. So you could look and see if the meter's tagged. So Nevada Power tags the meter and they lock it sometimes. So you could casually walk up and look at the meter, So for the HUD condo, since we know it's vacant because all the HUDs have to be vacant. But if you go up there and you walk over to where the meters are, you'll see the tag on that meter. And that's one of the things to just kind of, as a practice, you can kind of get a feel for it. And they're definitely vacant. So in order for HUD to pay the FHA insurance, the property needs to be vacant and cleaned out. So HUD gets it and it's basically cleaned out. Then their field services goes in and does a wipe down. And they actually vacuum and sweep and stuff. They bring a generator in and do that. But it still looks like crud. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there could be blood on the walls. If there's blood, they're not going to paint over it. They're just going to leave it. So anyway, so that's that. So let's say your brokerage doesn't have a NAID number, and I know High is at Realty One. No, yes, right, yeah. So Realty One has a NAID number, but you would go in here and you could reapply to extend your NAID number. It has to be done yearly. So in order to bid on a HUD, you have to have extended your NAID number. And then you'll go and you'll create your account under Clyde for Green Valley, and I'm sure it's probably Vera for Summerlin, or it might just be one. And we have to check on that, Martin. I'll I'll ask Darren or JC or somebody and figure out what that is. And like I said, it's good. This auction thing is really cool. There's so many different. Here's another one of them. Realty bid. Oops, that's Facebook. What am I doing? Wait, hold on. And this is just a way to knock off some extra inventory that we probably wouldn't see. Here's Zome. Why isn't that coming up? I have to reshare that screen, I think. Bear with me, kids. And so this is, yeah, Realty Bid's another site too. You go in here, you sign up, you create your agent account, same thing. And then you log in and you could search for properties. Let's see if there's anything in Nevada. Give it a minute. Oh, look at that. Oof. Oh, that's everything. So I searched by Nevada and I got everything. Let's see. Let's try if I just do Las Vegas. They might not have anything. That's why everything populated. They have one that looks like a land parcel. That's not even Las Vegas, it's Arizona. So there's nothing in Vegas on Realty Bid currently. But again, you got to kind of like run through. If you set up the email alerts, they'll email you just like that on auction.com sends me an email every day as they add it. And then I click on it. The first thing I do is I go to RPR and I bring it up on RPR to see what what RPR thinks it's worth, to see if it's even worth my time. So if RPR says it's worth, let's say, 450, anywhere range from 420 to 475, then I know, hey, this might be something to look at. If the starting bid's 100,000, this might be something to play with. And I mean, we did it. I did it myself. I used to sit in front of the screen on these computers, on my computer, and just keep resubmitting the offers as the day went on and the night went on until I got it or until somebody else got it. But I mean, this is even something you could have an assistant or a virtual assistant do. You could tell them, don't go over 250 or whatever it is. Go up in increments of $10,000. And you tell the investor, hey, I'm going to go up increments of $10,000. My goal is to get it as cheaply as possible. So, and one of the things I had mentioned on Friday that I do, and I don't know, Gil, if you do this with your investors, is there's I do a 1%, let's say, getting them the property. I'll do a 1% helping them manage the repair on the property. And then I'll do like a 2% listing when we go to relist it. So for that 1%, as far as managing, I just use like my REO contractors and give them the ability to collect bids and stuff and let them know what I would do. So if the guy is in LA County, he doesn't have to drive out here to meet every contract or have them in and out of the property alone. I would either meet them, the contractors at the house, or again, I'd have a combo box so I can give them a 1-day code on the Centric and let them go in and send me the bids, and I send them right to them, and I have them hire the contractor so that we're not playing the role of the general contractor. So that investor can hire whoever he wants to work on his property, but we would stay there. I drive by it once a week. I give them 4 exterior photos. I do a front, a side, and a street, and then I'll do a street the other way just so they could see what everything's going on in the neighborhood. Like in some neighborhoods, well, I get it all the time up in the Northeast. People leave the trash pails after garbage day out all week. And if there's no HOA, they're not going to get a violation. It's going to sit there. So that, as a buyer comes, they're going to see that, and the buyer's going to be like, oh, either going to be okay with it, or they might say, oh, I don't want this. Look, that neighbor leaves his garbage cans out all the time. So, depending on that, I just want them to be aware of everything. If there's a house down the block or next door and the guy has car parts in the driveway, I'll take a picture and I'll shoot it to him. I'll send it from my phone. Hey, I went by today. It looks like the guy next door has a junkyard. But obviously we should have caught that before we bought the house. So I probably talk my investors out of 3 of the 10 houses I send them, because I'd rather them not buy it than break my chops about it and keep coming back at me like, oh, you didn't tell me that the guy's got 3 pit bulls next door. I had an REO property on Warm Springs and Silverado Ranch, custom home. We listed it originally at $1.2 million, giant house. I think it was like 5,700 square feet on a big lot, half-acre lot. And the bank said to me, they did an appraisal, they listed it high. I said, we're not going to get that much. The guy next door has like a shack, and he has chickens and goats and all kinds of crap over there walking around. So, and dogs. So every time you pull in the driveway, the dogs bark. You hear the goats whining. He's got all kinds of wild animals, chickens clucking. I said, you're not going to get $1 million buyer that's going to be interested in putting up with that every day. So we ended up selling it at like 870 after slow reductions. It sat on the market for months. But that's something that if they would have, the appraiser sort of would have listened to me. I put it in my BPO that this is going to be an issue, the house next door. And we also got broken into. I bet you we got broken into once a week. So I'm in Southern Highlands, so it wasn't far for me to go drive over there every day. But it blows to go walk through when the doors kicked in, to go walk through the house, by yourself, 5,000 square foot house, big giant 2 stories, like a big modern colonial looking thing. So I'd walk through and, hey, anybody here? But the last thing you need is some guy coming out and freaking shooting you or something, because they're in your house. We don't get paid enough for that. So, but that happens too. Obviously with REO, we get break-ins constantly, and I, a lot of the times I've gone myself instead of sending a team member, because the last thing I want is, like, let's say if Haya worked with me and I had her doing inspections and she went by the house and said, looks like somebody broke in. I'd say, okay, just take pictures and I'll run over there later. Last thing I need is Haya walking in and them, tying her up in a closet or something. So it's better for me to go and no good. It's better for me to go and I have the authority to call the police and have them arrested and the whole, as a listing agent. So that works out a lot better. Or a guy, we used to have a lot of my field guys would typically, I'd find like off-duty policemen, or I had a couple of mailmen that worked for me. A lot of Metro cops over the years would kind of moonlight and do inspections and BPO photos and stuff for me. And those guys are great, because they're gonna, them going in, they're at least trained, And we used to have squatters all the time. So back in 07 and 08, Bank of America and Fannie Mae started giving a lot of money for cash for keys. And that's another thing, as an REO agent, we lay out. So let's say, I'll give a quick example. So I had one up off of Decatur, and I'm trying to think of where exactly. It was probably like Decatur and Wigwam, a small house. I bet it was 1,800 square feet. We got the assignment. I went there. House was vacant. We rekeyed the house. We did the follow-up. So every 15 days on an REO property, you do an inspection. We go every week just to make sure. So we went on this, literally on the 7th day, and there was 2 cars in the driveway and a wreath on the door, like a summer wreath. So I knocked on the door and I said, hey, this is bank-owned home. It's my house. What are you doing? Oh, we've leased this house. So they moved in. So back then, Bank of America and Fannie Mae were saying, okay, if the house is 500,000, let's give them 10,000 to move out, which is crazy money. So then this became the biggest scam. You find out what properties are vacant, move in, and they're going to give you $10,000 to move out in a week. You know what I mean? So we had a ton of, it was going on all over town. And then Henderson was the first place to roll out like a squatter patrol. And they had undercover cops that were part of this, that they would actually go out, and if they didn't have a valid lease. So if, let's say, the lease was signed by John Doe and the tax record showed Wells Fargo Bank, and I had my listing assignment email, and I had the tax record to show Wells Fargo Bank, they would literally knock on the door, and if not, they'd get access and they'd throw them out. So Henderson started, and the Northwest did it up in that Lone Mountain area. So they rolled it out. So I think eventually we're going to start to see that again too. We'll get squatters. I just read an article on, I posted it in here on the REO feed on the website. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It was, they call it zombie foreclosures. And what that means is a vacant home that's not being upkept. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the numbers are something crazy. Let me see if I can find it. There's like, I don't know if I say 10 million and it's 5 million, that's a big difference, but let me see if I can find it. This way I'm not blowing out fake numbers. REO feed. I don't know if you guys look at that. We have like little chat things built in here that you can go in and look at stuff. Oh, so there was a new foreclosure update that came out too. This is kind of cool. I don't know if you guys clicked on it and saw it on the blog page from Adam Data. It's Nevada is now 1 in every 2,741 homes are in some type of default. So we're #1 in the country. So we've hit #1. New Jersey's #2. Florida's #3, and I think California was #4. So let me see if I can find that zombie foreclosure one. I posted it and I can't remember. And I also put in here too. If you look through, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. So there's also like a list of servicers. So when we get to the point where you guys say, hey, I want to start working on getting some of these REO listings, I have my REO package together. I have my REO resume done. I'm ready to go. I put some money aside to cover some of these reimbursements. You can go through here and look for each state. I dug up through the Mortgage Bankers Association a list of the busiest servicers for each state. So the one I just popped up here is California. So for California, they have Wells Fargo #1, JP Morgan Chase #2, Bank of America #3, and US Bank #4 as the top servicers. So they're, whether it's their property or they're servicing it for Deutsche Bank or whatever it is, they have the most loans under servicing. So as those states head up in foreclosures, that's where the volume's going to hit. So right now, everybody, all these banks, as they start hiring and bringing their default people in, their biggest thing is always going to be to build that loss mitigation department, which is going to be, and they have that already running. And a lot of them, if you look on LinkedIn, that's a big thing. The banks are all hiring loss mitigation people, and that's to do workouts. They're either going to do a refi, they're going to do similar to forbearance, or they're going to offer them like a deed in lieu. So I made a lot of money on deed and lieu's back in the day. I offered it as a service, and some of the smaller banks would reach out to me and they'd say, hey, we have this file, we're having a hard time. It's November. We don't want to necessarily start a foreclosure now and have them evicted in December 15th or whatever it may be. Is there any chance you can reach out to them representing us and see if you can get a deed in lieu? So a deed in lieu means that the homeowners are signing over the deed to the property and back to the bank, and the bank now is forgiving that debt on the judgment of the foreclosure. And sometimes they'll even give them relocation money. So Heidi's building out a class itself just on that, because the banks are doing it. They might say, hey, you know what, Martin, let's do that. It's November. Let's give them 5,000 to help them move. So most people, some people get to that point where they're so banged up, credit cards, their car, they're so behind and everything, they're not worried about their credit anymore. But there are people that say, you're right, I don't need a foreclosure. I don't want to sit back for 4 or 5 years and wait for this. It used to be 7 years. I think now there's a bunch of forgiveness programs. If your credit's good across the board, they'll actually do a loan. And actually, all those people that lost their houses in 07 and 08 are now out purchasing again. So I can't find that zombie foreclosure thing, but I'll turn up with it and I'll repost it in here. But that's a big thing.
I saw it in there. It's there.
Okay. So that's a big thing, vacant homes. And you could even, so one of the things we talked about are local banks, like Nevada State Bank. It's part of not Zome, it's part of Iron. What is it? Gosh, they're part of the bank in Utah. Zion, they're part of Zion Bank. They're kind of a smaller bank, Nevada State Bank and Zion. That could be something that if you had a contact out, you could reach out and say, hey, I don't know what you guys have. If you have any properties in default, I'm willing to go out and look at the properties, do some inspections, if they're vacant in Nevada, I want you to know the HOAs are probably giving you violations. So we lost back in 2010. We had a bunch of Fannie Mae properties, and Fannie Mae capped you at like 25 an agent. So there are maybe like, it was still a ton of properties out there. Maybe there were like 10 agents. And we had a property that had preliminary title came out, and there was an HOA lien, and they were foreclosing on the HOA lien. We got an offer accepted. I called the asset manager up and I said, the foreclosure lien auction is Friday. If we don't pay that off, we could lose the property. We're a super lien state. The asset manager said, well, we're closing on Monday. I'm sure it'll be fine until Monday. I'll leave a message over there and let the HOA know we're closing on Monday. So what do you think happened? Foreclosed on Friday. They got the property. The deal fell through on Monday. We jumped into the portal. I told the bank, hey, we just got notification that HOA is rekeying the property. And they said, well, okay. We're servicing that for Bank of America. We'll just tell Bank of America they lost it. And nobody cared. So we lost a $250,000 sale that would have closed 3 days later. All they had to do was pay. I don't even know what the HOA lien was. How much could have been? $10,000. So it's silly, some of the stuff that goes on. Some of the big banks hire field services companies to go out and do monthly inspections on the properties that are, I would say they're like called like marginal return properties. So it'll be properties that have been late and might be pushing foreclosure. So these field services companies are national companies. Let's say it's out of Arizona. So they're out of Arizona. They have this giant company. They work the whole country. And what they do is they hire a contractor to do like Vegas area, contractor to do Reno area. That contractor then goes out and he hires his people to do it, to go to each house. So it waters itself down to being an inspection that field services company is getting $75 an inspection from the bank, to the actual guy doing it that's getting $6. So for $6, how hard are you going to work $6 a house? By the time you buy gas, you got to take 4 pictures. You're going to do a shit job, honestly. I mean, you have to. So that's what they have working for them. So they miss stuff all the time. So, one of the things we're rolling out, and Gil wasn't here for this. I know Haya knows, and I think I'm sure I mentioned it to Martin, is we're rolling out a community within Keller Williams, a default community, and we're going to be soliciting these banks and outsources as Keller Williams International, as a unified coverage, state to state, coast to coast default service, where we'd be able to pick the ball up on these inspections and do them the right way. So we're all licensed agents. We all had to pass that FBI background check to get our license. They're a lot cleaner than the people that are actually doing these $6 inspections. And again, we're going to be smarter, and we're going to do more of a solid job. We're going to check and see, hey, the grass is a little higher. I know this community in Rhodes Ranch, the grass is a foot high. This is HOA lien. I know these 3 dead bushes on the curb in Southern Highlands is going to be a problem. Could be $100 a week. Red flag it. Let them reach out and see if they could do it. Sometimes the banks will even contact the homeowner in default and say, hey, you're running up HOA liens. We're willing to go in and replace those 2 dead bushes in the front if you allow our guy to come in and do it. And they'll just send, a guy out to replace 2, put in 2 small little tiny $10 bushes to replace it so they don't get that violation. So there's a lot of different, in this default world, there's a lot of different stuff that trickles through. So I've been talking. Does anybody have a question?
When you mentioned Stockton, California, we have to have a license there to sell those foreclosures on the auction sites, right?
You'd need a California license, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can find an agent with a license, and you can kind of work something out with them and have them quarterback it. I'm licensed in California. I'd help you with it. There's always somebody in the market center. I mean, I kind of keep since I do market kind of in a lot of different areas, I don't have team members. I originally was expanding my team in a bunch of different markets. I didn't get into, my goal was to get into Florida but I'm licensed in New York, California, and Nevada. My wife's licensed in Arizona, and Heidi, who's partners with on a bunch of stuff, she's licensed in Utah. So we were going to focus on certain areas, but I think I'm going to probably go and bring on an agent kind of once this defaulting rolls out. I'm going to bring on maybe like a somewhat of a seasoned agent in each area to kind of, be a team representative so that I could have access to these other things. But yeah, technically we'd have to run it through that licensing and that brokerage. So, but we built an REO back end probably about 10 years ago. We started training REO brokers for a bunch of different clients for Wells Fargo, and then we did it for HUD. We did it for PennyMac Bank, and we would hire recommend agents, and the agents would be terrible. And then there'll be a strike against me. Like, oh, you brought me this guy, he's a loser, or, the water got shut off and the lawn died and I had to replace the lawn. He couldn't pay the water bill. And, he didn't have, this is terrible. I went with your guy, and I end up getting hung for it. So what we put into play was, if I recommended an agent in an area I couldn't find, I would reach out to, I started trying to handle this the right way, the Keller Williams way is, I'd reach out to a regional director, see if they're an OP in a market center in the area. I'd ask them, hey, who do you recommend in your office that I could work this with? We're going to do a 50-50 on this. I'm going to do the complete back end. They're going to do the front end. They're going to go in. The master listing agreement will be both of ours. They're going to go in. They're going to put it in the MLS. They're going to handle the contracts, the offers, and the physical groundwork inspections. And we're going to do the tasks all the way through. And we're going to take the property all the way through closing as if we were an REOTC, in an hour. So I built it, called it REO backend. So when I run into those situations, we plug it in. So that's something we'll also have in the default community. If let's say an OP in Fort Lauderdale wants to be part of it and they want to get involved, and they might have a contact but never did this before, we could plug that back end in for 6 months until they get up and running and they're familiar with it, and then they could be up and running. Instead of, I had so many conversations with Rick and Terry, and Terry said when we went to the ALC summit, it was the day before the ALC, I forget what it was. It was in Arizona. It was recently, a couple of months ago. Martin, you were there, right? Did you go to Arizona for that? Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, I didn't go, but that was where you met Mo, right?
Yeah, Mo did the training. Yep, we met Mo there. So I spent a lot of time with Rick and Terry, and Terry said the biggest thing was we got into this REO thing when it was already running, and it was up and running, and we were midway through. So we made a lot of mistakes, and nobody would help us because we were the new people coming in. So we struggled. So I lost a lot of money, and I don't like to lose money. I mean, Terry's a whiz, but when you're coming into something new, there's going to be challenges, So, I mean, that's what happens. I mean, there's no reason why, all these offices don't have something built in. I think it would be a good piece to help agents, and even at Realty One, they're right now they're selling, they're franchising, and they're selling the offices off. And if they had a plug-in where they could have this REO plugin in place, and they're in Stockton, let's say, and there's going to be a ton of inventory, why wouldn't they put something in? It's a good recruiting piece to get agents over, and it also brings revenue to the market center and to the agents. So if you had, so when I had my, I'm part of the Sacramento Keller Williams, as well as Laguna, and I got, so how far am I from Sacramento? I live in Vegas. I'm far. I'm not going to go drive up there or fly for an open house. So I had, at one time, I had about 45 properties I was carrying. This was recently, it was about a year and a half ago. And I made a deal with the market center, and I said, every week I need these all open house. They're all vacant and they're all redone. They're corporate. It was a corporate seller. So every week I want you guys to put an agent in for an open house. Whatever they come up with, that's theirs if they sell it. If I get a buyer that calls us directly, and again, I'm licensed in California, so we take all those calls in. I'm not going to go up there and show the house. I'm going to have an agent in your market center. I'm going to do a 50-50 referral with them, and they'll get all the leads, but they're going to show all my buyers and keep us in the loop all the way through. And then the MCA obviously is going to know that every one of my properties, I'm on that end also to make sure that we get paid. So that's what we do when it's like a far reach. For Southern California, I've driven into Riverside. I've driven into even the San Diego. I mean, for a while we had a place in San Diego. For a while we had a place in Orange County, and we were kind of going back and forth. So then at least I have a landing point. But if you're not, it's really hard to do. To drive out there for the day. then you got to get a hotel. We went one weekend. This was during the run of HUD properties. And I bet you we were probably carrying probably about 100 listings at the time. And we had to do the recurring inspections. And I was a control freak. So I would go out myself to do that inspection because I didn't trust anybody. And we drove out. So one weekend, my wife and I drove out. We started in Riverside County. We hit all our properties through Orange County. We went into LA County. We left the house at 3:30 in the morning in Vegas. We hit all our inspections. We finished by about 11 p.m. And then I said, well, we'll just get a hotel. We'll stay for the night and we'll drive home in the morning. Well, all the hotels were booked. I couldn't get a hotel anyway. I had to drive from Corona and Corona's Riverside County, but close to Orange County office. I had to drive all the way to Barstow before I found it like Days Inn or something that we had a room for overnight. So we didn't get into the room until freaking 2:30 in the morning. At that point, I could have just drove home, but we were tired from, running all day. So that'll definitely kill you if you have to do that every week. And you can't count on, I had the Hotels Tonight app and I was booking hotels as we were driving. And every time we got to the hotel, they were, oh, we're out of rooms. So that doesn't necessarily work. So, but
I think I was doing about 3 or 4 hours a night sleep when the market crashed back in 2007 or 8. Because all the reports have to be in on time, the BPOs, all the tasks you have to do, inspections, cash for keys, all that stuff.
Yeah, it'll kill you. I mean, it's some people will say it's blood money because it's going to cost you, and other people love it. I mean, I love it. I love being overwhelmed. So if I'm overwhelmed and all day long I'm just plugging through the mess, I'm happy with that. But it makes it hard. So and I'm sure. Before I said I believe, I'm sure we're going to have a big default market and it's going to be hitting hard. I think now with the change in administrations, there's going to be no more free money. And I think there's going to be, like, all the foreclosures usually start second week in January. I think second, third week of January, we're going to start to see a flow coming through. And then I think February and March are going to be even busier. And I think that's going to be the start of kind of the influx. A lot of people are barreled up. And I think we're gonna start to see it hit even harder, and we're gonna all start getting busy quick if that's the route we want to take to get into. So you need to obviously have manpower. And one of the things I don't have now, Bill, I don't know about you. Do you have a bunch of assistants helping you with everything? I mean, I know you're a big producer, so you must have some.
Yeah, I've got a couple assistants.
Okay, so we've got to the point where I've downsized and I have stuff in house. So I do a bunch of stuff myself. My wife helps me. I have my kid help, my 2 kids. I have Heidi helps with a lot of stuff. And we went out and we partnered with a virtual assistant company. And we started training virtual assistants. Biggest problem I had is when I first came over to Keller Williams from Prudential, I came over with like 16 admins. So I needed office space. And it was literally, and Gil, I don't know if you remember my story, but my Prudential exit was Mark Stark and I decided we don't like each other. And it was a freaking Friday night at 6 p.m. Change your brokerage. And then I went to Debbie Zoyce and I became a Keller Williams agent. It was, there was not much time, but I needed to have these people working on Monday. So I needed office furniture. I had to get everything rolling. So I came off of the days of the $4,000 or $5,000 a month office rental. That'll never happen again. So I think now I'm going to keep a tight knit group. I'm going to do a lot of virtual assistant stuff. Right now that the company we're working with is training the virtual assistants for those tasks and things that we'd come up with, like typing the BPOs, which blows. I'm sure, Gil, you spent a lot of time typing BPOs. The weekly every 15-day inspection form, we're going to have people do all that. Again, the field people, I have field people already on the ground in California, Nevada that we pay piecework to. So that's a recommendation for that actual inspection. But definitely you have to see your own properties. You can't just leave them out there and hope.
Yeah, how much are the virtual assistants running these days?
You know what? It's going to depend on how much you need, how much time. I mean, they're reasonable. They're per market with all the other companies. I called a bunch, so we're working with oh gosh, what's the name of the company? Now Heidi set it all up. I can't remember the name of it. I know she said it a bunch of times. Martin, do you remember? No. I'll have to check with her. She's not on. She's in the meeting today, so she missed this one. But we're going to do a training on Friday. She'll be with us on Friday, and then we can ask her. I forget the name, but you know, they're within realm. I called a few to see. You know, I said, hey, we're building out this network. Is there any chance you could train your VAs to do like type BPOs and put inspection templates together with photos and things like, and most of them are like, no, you have to hire them first. And I'm like, well, you can't, you know, I'm not going to hire somebody and train them, you know, I could hire anybody and train them, you know, so this one company is already actively out doing that. They saw the need coming. And so that's all I need is, you know what I mean? Somebody that understands, you know, as agents, we're not loaded, but you know, now to go out and hire somebody and bring them in and pay them, and they're going to want insurance, and you know, it's definitely too expensive these days to do all that.
Yep.
So we're opting to take that VA route. I'm opted to keep a small, tiny little office space just for myself. Everybody else could be remote. When I had I had a lot of business from Open Door the last 3 years. This year was very slow for me. I was in the hospital 3 times, and then I was helping Darren as a interim team leader for a while. So I didn't really have that busy of a year. But last year we did 306. The year before I did 165. And you know, for that I needed people. I did most of it from I have a office in Town Square, a Regis office, tiny little office. And then I did stuff from home. I mean, it's good to have a home office because, you know, in this world, you're up 5, 6 o'clock to get a report in. To have to get dressed and drive to the office hurts. So I get up, I have in my loft, I have an office area set up now, and that's what I did. You know, I go into the Regis office, but you know, most of the stuff was done from my loft, you know.
Yep.
And then I had assistants and had a girl in Colorado that was virtually doing a lot of stuff for us. And I had two girl in San Diego, and I had one in Riverside. And they both actually did field work also. And they were like, you know, virtually, you know, and if you're in a widespread area, you need something like that. Somebody has to get to a property if somebody breaks in,
Yeah.
you know. So me saying I'm going to fly there isn't going to fly, you know.
Right.
Or I'm going to drive there. I'll be there in 6 hours. You know, the house is burning down. I'll be there in 6 hours. So that isn't going to work. So you need to have people that can get there and do that. So, Miss Hyatt, do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm good. I'm just listening. I'm absorbing.
I know.
It's
I get
pretty
on
clear.
a roll. I could talk
It's
for
pretty
days.
clear. I mean, I'm still working on getting my team all organized and set up with Darren. So, we're in the process. And
Right.
as you know, I'm still in Costa Rica. So I'm coming back next few days. And then, just have to get back to everything. I've been in a little bit of a downtime here.
Yeah, with your mom. Yeah, I hope she's doing better. Is she any better? Or
No. This is a matter of days. We just don't know.
oh,
This is just So,
Sorry.
I'm taking breaks as I can, and I'm actually sitting in her kitchen right now, and
oh,
So no, this is just a very unfortunate situation that happens to older people. They fall, they get hurt, and then
yeah,
it's all over.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I'm coming
absolutely.
back home, and we're just waiting for her. That's all. But thank
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's
I'm sorry too.
you
Yeah.
know, as we get older, we realize we're not invincible. You know, I had 3 trips to the hospital this year for the first time in my life. I've never been to the hospital, and it definitely humbled me. You know, to I'm not invincible, and I do have to worry about stuff. So you know,
So you're not doing the motocross anymore?
no, God, no. What are you kidding? I used to go out and I'd drink and I'd break up fights, and you know, I'm like, you know what? You guys want to do whatever you want to do, you do it. I'm the onlooker. You know, I'm not getting involved. It has nothing to do with me. I'm out, you know. So yeah, I would you know, I did a lot of, you know, thought I was
It
a
was crazy
superhero.
the other night. It was crazy the other night with the Tyson fight, huh? Tyson and Jake Paul.
Oh God. You know what? I watched that. I stayed up past my bedtime to watch that because I thought Mike Tyson was going to knock him on his ass, and
Yeah.
it was the worst worst thing I've seen. And, luckily I didn't buy it. We went down to the M. We're in Southern Highlands, so we're close enough to go down to the M, and we ordered a snack up at the sports bar over there, and we laid through the fights. Actually, there was a fight right before that. Two girls, they clobbered each other. They slugged it out, man. Great fight.
Yeah, that was
great. I mean, that was worth it right there, because who would have thought, But yeah, that's and now I think about myself. I'm Mike now. I'm Mike Tyson. I'm the old guy in the ring, so I can't. There's a lot of things I can't do. I used to drive to the Laguna office was Mission Viejo when they merged. I used to drive, get up at 2:30 because I have to look pretty. So I'd shower, iron my shirt, I'd drive out, do all my inspections, pop into the office for lunch, and then I'd drive home back to Vegas. And I do that all the time. Now, when it starts getting dark, I'm not driving through the desert in the dark. That ain't happening. So, I'm either gonna have somebody do it, or, it's not happening. Yeah. As we learned, I don't have the stamina for a 10-hour drive anymore. So,
yeah,
as we get older. But the good thing is we get our systems in line, and then we are capable of actually doing more,
Yeah, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. And I always told people, to be honest, if I just talk on my phone all day and answer my phone and talk to clients, and especially like the REO clients, and I'm their go-to, like I have a few clients I talk to, even though there's no business, I still talk to them every week. And, I was on the phone with one girl Sunday for 3 hours. She was talking about her son. The son moved in with her. And, she's trying to find him a job. And so, you know what? You're there. You're a counselor. You help everybody with everything, and you be around and you build relationships. And that's what this business is. In real estate, it's all about relationships. So we have to do that. But do you guys have anything else for me? It was good seeing everybody. It's kind of like us all getting together for coffee without leaving the house.
Yeah, it's great. So we should get registered on all the auction websites, start getting familiar, start watching, get the email alerts, and
Yep. And then as you just on the buyer side, again, one of the things I did when I started again, 35 years ago, I started getting to know who has listings, these REO listings, and I started just reaching out from time to time. And so one of the things I did when we were doing the classes, I did a lot of classes for First American during the run. And Martin used to come to those. One of the
very
things
good
he
classes.
did was, remember those?
I remember them very well.
A room full of people. I had the group of people, agents that would show up at all my classes. So I always had people to sell stuff.
Yeah.
I had people that would do open houses if I needed it. So I didn't need to have a 22-man team anymore and, provide everybody an email and a website and all that crazy stuff. I know I could always send somebody a buyer or send somebody pop somebody into an open house, and there was always somebody to do something.
Yeah,
and I still have an email list of agents, and if we got a great listing, I'll pop it out before we list it so that somebody could sell it. And rather somebody I know that I could work with and explain things to than some 22-year-old kid that just got his license and he thinks he's Superman like I did when I was 22. So we work within our group. So there's a bunch of stuff. So Heidi built we're calling it an REO pre-list app, and that's going to be something we're going to have. Everybody will have access to. As we start getting listings, we're going to start throwing them in there, and you'll be able to just grab it on your phone and see what it is. If there's no price and there's access, you'll be able to get in there and see, and then it'll be updated.
REO pre-list.
So, all right, guys. Is there anything else?
No, I think that's it, Joe.
All right. So I guess I'll see you guys. We're going to post the Friday class. I'm waiting to hear back from Heidi today what the topic's going to be, and we'll post it in there, and then I'll shoot everybody an email out. Today I sent everybody an email out.
Yeah.
And you guys will be able to come in and jump in and do that. I'm assuming it'll be like 1 or 2 o'clock on Friday. That's typically what we do. and then we'll go over the topic, and that's it. Hopefully, I'll see you guys then.
We'll be
Thanks,
there.
Joe.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great day. Be productive.